will run it. A sneak. Touchdown! Rocco Beck took it in. He snuck it in from a yard out. And the Cyclones take the lead. Oh, my goodness. The drive by this ultimate competitor, Rocco Beck. And he takes it in, his second rushing touchdown of the night. And the Cyclones take the lead with 30 seconds to go.
And there it is.
I didn't see a false start, did you?
Nope. There was
Definitely
not a
not.
false start there.
There was no false start to be had.
Wasn't called, wasn't a thing.
It wasn't called, didn't happen.
The same thing happened to us in Manhattan that one year. I don't know if you guys remember that.
2017 where you guys got fucked.
There was a long chain of fuckage, but on the play that they scored the go-ahead touchdown,
yeah,
there was a false start
where Skylar Thompson was running around.
Yeah.
That whole last fourth quarter of that game was a chain of fuckery.
Yeah, they picked up a PI and all kinds of shit.
They picked up 3 of them.
Yeah.
Crazy, especially because one of them was clearly showing a defender just draping all over Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Well, we got the win.
We are here on the nightcap at 7-0, regardless of the fuckery that took place in Jack Jar Stadium on Saturday night. The Iowa State Cyclones escape, and the team of destiny rolls on. So we're here. We got Levi, myself, and Dylan. We're back for the 7-0 edition of the nightcap. So how's it feel, fellas?
I don't know.
That good, huh?
Like riding a moped, laying a fat chick, all the above.
At the same time?
Yeah, possibly. You know.
I think it's sturdy moped.
Sounds like a great time, quite honestly.
You know, I don't know. It's good to get the win, man. It just sucks. It sucks. It's not necessarily the momentum builder that you're looking for at this point in the year, but
It's great win. It sucks. It's a great win. It sucks. No.
Yeah.
We did say in terms of, and this is just specifically for the linebackers last week, we did say, hey, let's just get out of there, with the win and get to the bye week. Well, the whole team had that mentality, and here we
We're
are.
like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping it was a little cleaner on the way out, but
Been there.
It is it's good to get your team in like situations like that and come out on top. Like that's good. Like that's a positive, I guess. You don't want to win every game by multiple scores and then find yourself in that for the first time in like a bigger game. But yeah, I don't know. I think me and probably a few Cyclone fans aren't like crazy ecstatic about it or anything, but
I think you have to take it in context because part of the reason we were like eagerly awaiting this bye week is because the team is so banged up, and now the offense has injuries too. It's not relegated to just the defense anymore. It's all over the place. Fortunately, you saw some linebackers. Caleb Brzezina played a few snaps, but Carson Hansen also went down with an injury earlier. It's not like he could have come back in, but Sama had a nice game, especially in the second half, so they didn't need to bring Hansen back. But I thought. They obviously they busted a play. They had that pick six early. The first pick six was just a bad read by Rocco, and he just whatever. The second one, one of the receivers fucked up because there was 2 receivers on top of each other. So that one was not Rocco's fault, and it actually went out of the receiver's hand straight in. It was a Jalen Knoll, went straight out of Jalen Knoll's hand straight into the defender's hand. So that's kind of the second one, especially, was really fluky. And even that long
had a chance to get it back. He had a chance to get it back.
Well, I'd be curious what your thought on this though is because like when he dropped it, it went into the end zone. Like I know you're supposed to play through the whistle and all that or whatever, but like I guess from my perspective, anyways, like I can't really blame Jalen Travis for not jumping on that ball. He had no reason whatsoever to believe that was a live ball.
Yeah, that's what I think is probably fair. Like you have some guys that just have that internally. Like even if the whistle's blown and the ball's on the ground, they're just like
just jumping on
instinctual. Like they just do that. But most of those guys are defensive guys,
right?
And so like as an offensive guy, like there's no reason to believe, like you said, that is a live ball. So like I don't think there's any
and
fault
the
in
rules
it,
the
but-
rules dumb because it essentially expects you to play beyond the whistle. Like it's punishing you for not playing, not even just through the whistle, but past the whistle. It's saying, he goes into the end zone, they whistle for the touchdown, the play's over. But that rule expects you to continue playing football and jump on that ball. So
Right.
that's it. The rules dumb because
It almost feels like it should be in that scenario. If that happens and the ball's just in the end zone, they should count it as it went out of bounds. Or
they should count as a touchback.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it did. It bounced right in the end zone. It's not like it sat on the 1 yard line. It went right into the end zone. So I don't know. It was a weird situation, and again, didn't end up mattering. But getting the ball back in that situation would have been good because you wouldn't have immediately like. Obviously, it was what, tied 14. It was tied at 14 with a chance to take the lead going into halftime, and then that happens, and they go down 21-14. And right after half, they gave up that long run to Ja'Cory Brown, and now they're down 28-14, just like that. So, I don't know. It was a weird deal, but UCF won that middle 8 minutes, but in the second half, they really bottled, the UCF offense did almost nothing in the second half, especially outside of, and really outside of the busted run by RJ Harvey, the long busted touchdown run, and the long run by Ja'Cory Brown. Outside of those two runs, they had
Pretty solid
on the ground, but, not when you add it into the fact that they basically just didn't even try throwing the ball.
Yeah, I meant to go back and rewatch those big plays to see
the RJ Harvey one that he busted off. Cam Smith,
I don't really want to blame. I'm not going to blame anybody.
Cam Smith blew a tackle. I mean,
see what we're running, see where we're supposed to be, what gaps we're supposed to fit in. Maybe one of those young guys or something. I don't know.
You can go back and see it. I mean, Cam Smith whiffed a tackle. I mean, it's something that I'm sure he's seen on film 100 times already, and I'm sure they'll get it fixed. I mean, that's just what it was. It was Cam Smith whiffing on a tackle, and then RJ Harvey is a really great player and took advantage of it. And that's really all there is to it.
They had all the safeties up and nobody was behind. Cam Smith behind
the last guy and the last guy missed the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
We did have elite clock management at the end of the game.
Yes, the end of the game. Yes.
And all of that, we would be sitting here saying we had terrible clock management if Verdon doesn't make that fucking play. I think it was second down, maybe. He chased him from behind.
Second down run, RJ Harvey.
Yeah, that was an incredible football play. We lose the game if he doesn't make that.
Yeah.
Well, and he got lost initially got lost right behind the tackle that was pushing the defensive end out, and he scraped over the top and got around just enough to get his arms around him to slow him down, and everybody else helped clean up. But yeah, that was I wouldn't say luck by any means, but he's fast enough that he makes that play, but it's also
it was fortunate.
A lot that went right for him to get around that tackle. The guy, maybe what if he pushed him another half yard? Then he's out of the play, and a lot of things went right there to have that happen.
It's about time something went right for the Cyclones.
Yeah. Well, in the way I look at that game too is that in the past, Iowa State has found a way to lose that game 100 times out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
And especially that last drive, the last 2-minute drill, that's a situation we've seen Iowa State come up short in a million times, even going well before you got here. Is that it's just that losing that game was just a fabric. It's just a part of the fabric of Cyclone football. And
in previous teams too, it's you get down that 14 points, whatever it was, right out of the gate at the halftime,
right.
It's you could just tell at that point, previous teams were well, they don't have it. But
it's just over. Yeah.
The fact that they got the ball back, went right back down and scored, and you're okay, we're probably right back in this, and it's no problem from here.
Yeah,
that's positive. I think through all of the shit that happened, I don't think there was a ton of people. I think people were worried, but it never felt oh man, we fucking lost this one.
It always felt like UCF was ahead only because we were fucking up, and that as soon as we stopped fucking up, the UCF would no longer be ahead. That's the way it always felt to me, is that UCF was doing the absolute bare minimum required to be winning that football game. And they eventually came back from it. Rocco started a little tough. He had a really rough start. Then
Had a real rough day.
He had a rough day up until the last 2 drives, basically.
I'm pretty certain. I mean, I'm not like gonna speak for him because nobody's ever gonna say it, but it was like he might have been in Narnia after he got his bell rung a little bit.
Right before that first pick six, he got his bell rung a little bit.
He might have thought he was in Antarctica for a little while and never like made it back to the States, and then somehow like just won the game while being on another continent.
And we're not like suggesting he was like covering up a concussion, but it was more just like he might needed to take a couple plays
a little
off.
Little woozy.
I mean, there's certainly middle ground. There's certainly middle ground between
a football game.
Yeah. So now the thing with the injuries that we get to is like, is a bye week enough? Like, are our injuries like? Because if you're injured, a bye week doesn't matter. It doesn't help you.
No. I'm looking at guys
bruises.
like Cale Berzina, who played he did play some snaps last week. That's a guy I think benefits big time from a bye week, just an extra week to get healthy. And then I'm looking at a guy like Jaden Higgins, who was very clearly not 100% towards the end of that game. He was walking a lot of places. Couldn't tell you what the issue was. It seemed like during routes he was running generally fine, but he was really walking between plays. So I couldn't tell you what the issue was. But if he was well enough to at least be on the field and running some routes towards the end of the game, but he was clearly not 100%. This is a bye week. This bye week is perfect for him to get him healthy. Carson Hansen, who got nicked up, didn't end up having to come back in, but like a guy like him, I think, is another one that benefits from the bye week. Is a bye week going to magically heal Will McLaughlin or Caleb Bacon? No, like you said, they're not just going to magically be healthy because we had a bye week.
Speaking of them too.
Yeah, have we got eyes on Bacon like on the sideline? Is he in a boot still?
I've got a rumor.
You got a rumor?
We got a rumor that there's some men coming back at the linebacker spot possibly soon.
Like Will McLaughlin men?
He's one of the men.
Men is plural.
I mean, if we somehow got Will McLaughlin and Caleb Bacon back, that would be outrageous. That would be unbelievable for this defense.
Of one around the Cincinnati time frame and one possibly for Kansas State.
Yeah, that's kind of when I heard.
So Kansas State is
Bacon. Yeah, when I heard Campbell's like take on the whole thing, I was thinking like Kansas State, if we're lucky, Big 12 championship probably. Is kind of what I was thinking. But.
Comment Ben Bramer's another one I think benefits huge from this because he went off. He had a knee brace. He was on crutches and all that shit during the game. Campbell said they're not really that concerned about it. Said it wasn't a big deal. It was more just precautionary type thing.
I'd be willing to bet we don't see.
Yes, I would guess we don't see him
against
Tech
or Kansas.
Yeah, I don't know how severe it was, but that's a guy having a bye week is nice. Even if you're not playing,
bet he has a knee. I bet he has either a bone bruise,
like a sprain or something
like that. Because a bone bruise on like the knee, like they say, is like worse than like an MCL like strain, like can be just because of like the joints and all that stuff rubbing the knee, and depending where the contusion is and all that.
Right,
weird stuff. It's just like you hear bruise and you're like bone bruise. Oh, that's probably not that bad. But like they say it's like I've never had one specifically, so I don't know. But they say it can be pretty bad on the knee at least. I don't know about thighs and all that stuff. Obviously, you need to bend your knee. So
yeah, speaking about Tech, dude, I thought they were pretty good and they gave up what 60?
Their defense is poopy. They gave up 50. I think they gave up 59 to Baylor.
Jesus.
Guess we're about to really see what Gabe Burkle's made up of, huh?
Gabe Burkle. Actually, the guy that was playing a lot last weekend was Tyler Moore. Tyler Moore's getting a lot more snaps recently, which is good. I know you and I were both enthused about him coming out of high school.
Well, and I think he's been playing a lot of what Dylan, that position with Dylan.
Yeah, the H-back, F-back type thing. Yeah.
But obviously we saw him a lot more when Klotz was out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a guy that can play that spot if you need to put him in that position. He could. It's not like he's not done it.
I'm kind of wondering if we ever see Cooper Alexander this season. We saw him against North Dakota, I think. Just a little bit. Either North Dakota or Arkansas State. He played garbage time in one of those, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, if Bramer is really like injured and needs like a week to 3 weeks, whatever it is, I don't know. Like Burkle just seems like I think they think he's really talented, but like when he got in that game and like when he was running some of those routes, like get towards the end of the game, he just looked a little.
He looks a little stiff to me.
Stiff, slow, like it's a step that it's like he doesn't have that step that Bramer has, and obviously that's why Bramer's
that's
above all these guys.
Yeah.
But it looked different, and it kind of like I was thinking about it, and I was watching the last drive back after he went out in the game ending drive, and just how he was like running and like when he like would position in the middle of the field, turn his back and like seal off like a defender, the linebacker that was covered, and it was just. I don't know. It didn't really enthuse me about if Bramer was going to be gone, So I was like, fuck.
Right.
But maybe like a week of preparation and all that good stuff, it might look a little different because you are thrusted into something that you were maybe.
Yeah. A week of prep as the starter, I think, would help.
Yeah.
Has Tech played a good defense? They did run it up on Cincinnati, which are we calling Cincinnati a good defense?
They're decent. They're not like great, but they're solid enough.
That's probably another year away from
Cincinnati.
Really
this Cincinnati team is a lot like those old, like the good Paul Rhodes teams where they're just kind of plucky and they can do some damage if they get some bounces and stuff like that. They're solid, but they're otherwise largely unspectacular.
They're decent enough that they could whoop your ass one week, and they're bad enough that they could just lay an egg.
Get their ass whooped. Yeah.
And the thing we have I was looking at the games this week, like there's really not a whole lot going on in terms of.
No, it's a light week. The big one though is UCF BYU this weekend.
Yeah, so BYU wins that game, they jump us in the rankings.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, they'd probably
the bounce house produces for once.
The bounce house is probably the single most overrated home field advantage in college football.
Is.
It's not like
it's just that they're very loud about it because they have so much alumni. That's like the only.
Yeah, they have so many people on Twitter. It's crazy. So yeah, Paul is asking, have they ever put a defense on the field? So I think a couple of years ago they had a couple of years ago. I think it was okay.
When I was in school, there was a year or two they were pretty. Solid.
They were decent a couple of years there.
When they had the Last Chance U kid. And then they had another kid that was a linebacker that was drafted in the first round.
The linebacker was a defensive end.
He was kind of like
a defensive end. I'm pretty sure.
I think he was a body, and they just kind of brought him off the edge.
Yeah, just like a good defensive player.
Yeah. God, what was that kid's name? I think he was number 1, right?
He might have been. I know who you're talking about. I think there was a couple years in there they did actually field a serviceable defense, but
they had that Last Chance U kid.
Yeah, for the most part,
it's okay.
For the most of
Tyree Wilson.
Tyree Wilson was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, for the most of the last couple decades, Tech has not really put out many good defenses, though.
If you talk about a guy that just hasn't, I mean, he was hurt last year a little bit, but a guy that just hasn't got off and going in the NFL is Tyree Wilson. It's because he plays for
that BYU UCF game is interesting though, because BYU is only like a 2-point favorite, I think, and they kind of get gashed in the run game. The game they played last week, and they played Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State ran for like 270 yards on them, and Oklahoma State's running game is terrible.
I just I want. I have nothing bad.
Jordan
against,
Brooks
BYU.
Is who I was thinking of.
Oh yeah. I have nothing bad against BYU, and obviously in terms of I don't even really care about the AP ranking at this point in time. It was cool to get top 10, but now it's in a matter of 2 weeks, it's not going to matter because the college football poll comes out, and
right.
Lord knows when the committee takes that over, we're going to be not ranked in the top 10 because that's just the way she's going to roll. Do we want BYU to lose? I
I think specifically,
Yeah, probably.
I think you want to lose it for the purpose of like tiebreakers and stuff. Because
I almost want Kansas State to lose more is what I want, but
I want them both.
lose?
I want them both to lose, but
Like
They
I
play
don't see
Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah, I don't see Kansas State losing.
Kansas is not
We're-
beating Kansas State.
I think we're the only game that Kansas State has left.
Yeah, the rest of their schedule is cake. I think they still have Arizona State, but other than that, which I think they have Arizona State in Tempe, which
better than I thought they would be, but they've been kind of hit and miss, I guess.
they're good enough where if some shit just fell the right way, they could beat Kansas State.
It's in Manhattan.
Oh, it's in Manhattan. Oh, I was thinking it was in Tempe. Okay, well they're not losing that game. Yeah, so it's only
Yeah,
we're gotta hope for a couple upsets along the way. And
it's Kansas, Houston, ASU, Cincinnati, and then us.
Woof.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're gonna go straight through that schedule. Are they at Cincinnati or is it in Manhattan?
In Manhattan. The only away game is us and Houston.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, so Kansas State's probably not losing it. I think you would want BYU to lose because if you get down to tiebreakers and us having beaten UCF and them not beating UCF, when you get to like talking about common opponents and stuff like that, that helps Iowa State in terms of that. And in general, you just right now, UCF is completely out of the race. So you would like the other teams around you, you would like them to keep losing. Just to help Iowa State's case in the event of tiebreakers and whatever.
Yeah, like a sneaky Colorado. Like
Colorado's schedule kind of isn't great from here out though. I don't think.
Do they play BYU?
I think they play BYU. Colorado finishes with Cincinnati.
They've got the easiest schedule left.
Colorado.
Yeah.
They got Cincinnati, Utah, Oklahoma State Tech. Oh, Cincinnati Tech, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. So, I mean,
that's pretty cake.
I mean, Cincinnati's defense is okay enough where they might give them trouble. Texas Tech can score points with them anyways. No idea about Utah.
Utah sucks.
They're not great, but I mean, it feels like they should be talented enough to do something.
They got a good enough coach that something could happen.
Yeah, so Utah could.
It hasn't. Yeah,
I know, but like I still like Iowa State going into Salt Lake City for that game. It's like, is it significantly easier than what we thought at the beginning of August? Yes, but it's still like we're going there. Shit happens,
Well, BYU has to go there too.
And that one, I mean, Utah's gonna be juiced up for that one anyways because that's their rivalry game, and I mean that could.
If we could get BYU to lose to UCF and Utah, that'd be great. And those are both absolutely games that they could lose too. That's a tough back-to-back is at UCF and then at Utah. That's tough.
They
got Houston in the middle of that.
No. Utah. I'm sorry. Utah plays Houston this weekend, and then it's BYU.
And then so Utah's.
So that's good for us though, because Utah is going to play BYU, Colorado, and us in a row.
Yeah.
If you're worried about going to Utah and that game being crazy.
No, I assume that by the time they get to us, Utah's spirits will be completely broken. I mean, they're technically not out of the race. If they won out and they got some fortunate bounces, they could.
They're either going to be completely dead or they found lightning in the bottle somehow. That's what Utah.
I think that I don't know because they're not going to have anything to play for. Cam Rising's out. That backup is terrible. The Wilson kid, he's terrible.
I mean, they're out of the race. There's no.
Mathematically they're not, but they got such a tough schedule left that it's not good for them.
No, I think they lost
losses,
to both.
Right?
No, they lost to both Arizona teams and TCU. With those losses,
they have 3. Oh yeah, okay. I was thinking they only had 2. Yeah, at 3 they're out. Yeah, at 3 they're out of it. So their season's basically done. Right now they're just trying to get to bowl eligibility. That's all Utah is trying to do.
And they got a rough schedule to do that.
And they have a rough schedule to get there. So, I think by the time they get to us, I think Utah will be about ready to be done playing football.
I hope.
And I'm hoping that Kansas State loses one, so they're also about ready to being done playing football.
I'm telling you, man, I don't know if Colorado loses another game.
If it was us versus I would take a matchup with Colorado in the Big 12 championship game every day of the week. I think we would demolish them.
And they got Shiloh back last week. He's healthy now.
No, but I'm talking about like
so which hurts their chances because he's terrible.
I'm talking about like we could end up in like if us and BYU both lose a game, like say we lose to Kansas State wins out, BYU loses somebody, you're gonna have like 4 teams with one loss.
Yeah, right now it's like 4. It's us, Kansas State, BYU, and Colorado are the only realistic shots at getting. I mean, I guess technically Cincinnati has the record to get there, but I don't see them making it through because apparently they've got us and Colorado and Kansas State. Like they've got a terrible schedule.
But that's what I'm saying. If all 4 of those teams end up with one loss, like that's going to get hairy.
Yeah, it'll get weird because
we didn't play 2 of those teams.
Yeah, so the tiebreakers get really, really complicated if you have like 4 teams involved.
Yeah.
Because we didn't play BYU, we didn't play Colorado, and Colorado doesn't play BYU. So Colorado will have only played Kansas State, and they lost.
Yeah.
And then BYU will have only played Kansas State, and they would have won. And we would have only played Kansas State. How did Kansas State become the only common opponent with the other 3?
That's what I was telling you, man. Like they had probably the toughest schedule.
Kansas State had a tough schedule, so they would win a lot of tiebreakers in terms of like opponent winning percentages and stuff like that.
If Kansas State wins out, they're automatically in because they had the hardest schedule. They played all the other teams at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know how it would work from between us, BYU.
It would be
Colorado.
3 teams that didn't play each other,
right?
And their only common opponent is Kansas State, and BYU won, and Colorado and Iowa State lost. That's probably how it would shake out.
Yeah. Then let's see, because BYU beat Baylor, right? Because they played.
Shout out having Kansas State at home this year.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. If we
having Kansas State at home is,
I think if we lose to Kansas State, I think we're out.
There's a non-zero chance that Iowa State is an 11-1 non-title game participant.
Yeah,
that would suck so much.
Hey, at least we got the 10-win monkey offer back. Yeah,
we could be 11-1 and get left out if our losses to Kansas State and they win out, I believe.
So, which would suck because we would lose to one of the title. We would lose to
the other team in the championship.
We would lose to the other team in the championship by theoretically a close game, and Kansas State's only loss is getting absolutely shit pounded by BYU.
Yeah,
that's like, if that's not some shit ass justice, I don't know what it is. Like,
yeah,
Kansas State can just get destroyed.
All we gotta do is just sit every Saturday morning, say a little prayer to the football gods, and just hope for complete chaos each week, and none of that chaos, including Iowa State, please. And thank you.
Fortunately, Iowa State's back end of the schedule has lightened up since the beginning of the season. Texas Tech looks very vulnerable right now. Their defense is horrible. Their offense is something I think John Haycock can take advantage of because they're more balanced than UCF. I think right now Iowa State really only had trouble with UCF because it's such an imbalanced offense and it's so run heavy, and then RJ Harvey is the best back that they've played this season probably. And
I mean, like I told you, the amount of points that we just threw away is disgusting.
Oh yeah, we gave them. Well, we straight up gave them 2 touchdowns.
And then the 2 big plays. So that you're at 28 points on 4 plays.
On 4 plays, right?
And then you account for the pick sixes, theoretically taking 7 away from your team. So I mean, those are huge
right
point swings.
It's a big swing. So the way I see this is like, yes, obviously, you don't want that shit to happen very often, but Iowa State survived a game in which everything that could go wrong went wrong. They gave up 9 yards. They gave up 9 yards a carry. They gave up 2 pick sixes. They did not pick off UCF until the very, very end. And everything pointed to Iowa State should have lost this game, but they didn't. And that game was like abnormal. Like it would have been like for any one of those individual things to happen would have been abnormal. Like throwing 1 pick six is abnormal. Throwing 2 pick six is really abnormal. Giving up 9 yards a carry is very abnormal. All 3 of them happened in the same game and they still won.
Honestly, I think that out of anything that's really happened though, like is Rocco Beck going to throw 2 pick sixes in another game this year?
It's not gonna happen
Probably
again.
not. I mean, technically it could happen, but probably not. And then I think the most, like, I'm tossing it out. I'm not worried about that. And hopefully his trip from Antarctica is already over and he's back in the States. But the thing I'm more worried about is the 9 yards per carry. I know UCF is like, that's what they're going to do. And that's what they came into this game. Like, we're going to run the ball. Right. But like, that's a problem.
It's a big number, but it's also, I mean, it's also inflated by RJ Harvey's like 80-yard run. And then Ja'Cory Brown's was like 70. So, I mean, if you peel 150 yards off that total, the average goes down pretty quick. It's still, I mean, it's still, I don't know.
Go ahead.
And UCF's scheme is specifically designed to attack the running game. They had essentially had two games to prepare for it, because they played Cincinnati the week before, who runs our defense because Tyson Vita is their defensive coordinator. So they had last week to prepare a running game against them, see what worked and see what didn't, and then improve on it on the second week. That's a very unique situation. I would say
a really good football coach too. I mean,
yeah, Gus Malzahn's a great coach. I mean, for whatever they're struggling, everybody agrees that Gus Malzahn is a good football coach. So you have a good coach that played the same defense 2 weeks in a row. You have a defense that was down some linebackers. You have one missed tackle. You have one freak play on an interception that two receivers fucked up, and the other one, and the other part of that is one of them just dropped it, and it also went straight into a defender's hands. So freak play. And then otherwise, like, it was a fairly clean game. UCF their whole scheme is designed to get yards on the ground through that read option game. And sure, they gave it up in the first half, but if you look at that fourth quarter and the third, and the end of the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, even the running game really didn't do much. They were able to bottle it up. It took them a little bit, but they got it bottled up. And I look at that and saying, everything went wrong against a team that's a really bad schematic matchup for us, and they came out. Everybody from here on out runs a much more balanced scheme that they're gonna try to throw into our secondary, which Iowa State was more than happy to let happen at this point. And it's all more of a balanced scheme. I don't think any team left has an individual offensive player as good as RJ Harvey. I don't think so. Maybe one of the Kansas State backs, I guess. But this was a weird scheme. This is like, it's kind of like playing Iowa, where it's just a weird matchup that Iowa State's not really built for. And just like Iowa, you survived it. You took care of it when you needed to, and then you get your score at the end when you need to. And I think it says something where, like, that many things can go wrong, and you can still, like, even up to the very end, most of the stadiums still stuck around, even after they got, UCF got that first down with like 3 minutes left to play or whatever it was, when it looked like, shit, that's probably it. Most of the stadiums still stuck around because we know that the offense can move the ball when they really move the ball when they want to.
Yeah.
And, especially once Jalen Knoll caught that, it was like probably a 20-yard pass, something like that. He caught that on the east side or the west sideline there. He caught it right along the sideline. As soon as he caught that, I was like, fuck, we're going to score this shit. Like, I mean,
it was like this far away from being overthrown.
Right. Right. But honestly, also props need to go out to Rocco for orchestrating that last drive. I mean, the dude just dropped his fucking nuts and went for those last two drives. I mean, there was a number of third and fourth downs that he converted by just scrambling for 10 yards and made some really gutsy throws. When you have a quarterback that can have a rough game for the first 3 quarters and then put it together and really, I mean, genuinely put the team on his back for 2 drives at the end of the game to score. I mean, that's invaluable, having a guy like that, especially when you have the skill players around him. And now knowing that Jaden Higgins was basically not an option. He was a decoy, but he was, seeing how he was walking around, he was not even really hardly an option there towards the end. They were pretty much going to have to rely on Jalen. We're not going to have another game where that many things go wrong again. It's just not good. Like, it's statistically, like, basically
all that stuff. Like, combined together, good coach, all the
Yeah.
bad shit.
There were so many
Play the
things
same
working against
defense.
Iowa State.
And
Yeah,
then you
there's
add
so
in
many.
like the lower that number next to your name on the television gets, the better
harder they
shot.
play.
Yeah, the better shot you're going to get from the team you're playing. Like
Absolutely.
if Iowa State was like 4-3, UCF probably isn't even in that game. They probably whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
You know,
Like, yeah.
So that's another thing too. Like going forward, like we think, oh, let's mark these games off. Like you're gonna have to show up and play every week.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody you play, it doesn't matter if their season's over or not. That you're gonna get if you're inside that top 10, you're gonna get the best shot they have. So.
If you just look at how many different factors were going against Iowa State to win last weekend, them winning I think is a good sign going forward because they're not going to play that sloppy again. They're just not. That's not. If you look at the other 6 games of the season, at most they play that sloppy for like 3 drives, and then from there on it's butter. I would expect to return to the norm going forward, especially with like Texas Tech's defense, who is terrible, and that quarterback is an interception machine. And then you got Kansas, who is bad, really bad vibes all around. You're playing basically a home game at Arrowhead. And then you got Cincinnati, who you're just better than on both sides of the ball. You just are. You know, like you said, you're going to get everybody's best shot since you got potentially a single digit number next to your name. But now that I've had a chance to reflect on it, you know, it felt like we got lucky to get out of there with a win last Saturday. But now that I'm looking at it and I've had a chance to rewatch it a few times, I can honestly say that I think we earned that win. Did about the hardest week.
That bad.
What was that?
I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, you remember the TCU national championship run? Like, do you watch any?
We got fucking obliterated that last week.
Did you watch any of their games that year? Because they got fucking lucky.
They did. Well, I remember that one as a Baylor that they had that like scramble drill field goal there at the end of the regulation.
I can't remember the exact number, but they won like 9 of their games by 1 possession.
Yeah.
What year was that?
2022.
All right, let's take a peek.
Because that was the year we were kind of down, and they just destroyed us in Fort Worth at the end.
Was it 22? It wasn't 21.
Yeah, it was
22.
21
was our 7-5 year.
So Baylor, 1-point win at Baylor, 7-point win at Texas, 10-point win at Tech, 10-point win at West Virginia, 10-point win at Kansas State or versus Kansas State, 2 overtimes against Oklahoma State, 7-point win at Kansas.
I think we're the only team they blew out.
Yeah, pretty much. Other than Tarleton, shout out Tarleton.
They're going to be in that FBS program.
They beat Oklahoma by 31, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think as the game gets further in the past, it's not as big of a deal like as it seemed right in the moment. Like any team that makes a crazy run in any sport, like in March Madness,
you're gonna have those moments.
Yeah, like in March Madness when you have a 16 seed beating a 1 seed, like they're doing something that's abnormal. Like
as Frederick said about 30 minutes ago, he said a win is a win. 12 years from now, looking at the standings, most won't remember how we won this game.
Yeah, I mean, next year they probably won't. Like they'll talk about it this year, especially if we go the postseason. They'll talk about it a lot.
They barely beat UCF.
Yeah. So TC or Texas Tech's quarterback isn't half bad. He's got almost 2,000 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 142.
Is that Baron Martin?
Yes.
Okay, so apparently he's cooled down the interceptions. I know to start the season he threw a few picks to start the season.
2 to start the year.
Yeah. I think he's just kind of a slightly less gunslinger-y Garrett Green, but he can't quite run. He can't run quite as well as Garrett Green.
It looks like you just got to play some defense because everybody seems to score at will on them.
Yeah.
this is bad. Abilene Christian went to overtime with them and scored 51 points.
This feels like a game where we're going to try to get to 28 and then just suck the life out of the game. Just make Texas Tech try to defend long drives, try to go a couple like 8-9 minute drives in the third and fourth quarter and just completely.
Yeah, their scoring defense is 125th in the nation.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
So there's that.
This feels like they're going to try to approach this game the same way they did like the Houston game.
But they are the
ninth
highest scoring offense in the nation.
Yeah. Have they played any good defenses?
That's what I was talking about. Cincinnati.
Yeah,
they're okay.
They scored 44 on them, though. I mean,
yeah.
Washington State held them to 16.
Their defense is okay. They've got a good defensive line.
Hey, they scored 50. They scored 52 on Abilene Christian.
Yeah, and gave up 51. I remember that game, first week of the year. That was something.
I don't know. At this point, like high scoring teams don't really scare me at this point because usually there's something that they're exploiting on a regular basis that John Haycock finds on film and then takes it away.
I'm like, we get a high scoring offense, but they're coming to Ames, so it's like, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat, I guess.
And then
historically, when Tech comes to Ames late in the year, they don't do
not
well.
Great.
They hate the shit out of playing.
Shout out Patrick Mahomes.
And then you're going to then you're the next game is Kansas on the road, on the road. But there's nothing to really worry you there about Kansas. Could they find lightning in a bottle for a game? Sure, but doubtful at this point. And then it's Cincinnati at home.
Yeah.
Then you play
Cincinnati will be interesting. Just because
I think that game might be a little closer than what we want to believe, but and it's not because they're like Iowa State's gonna let down or anything. I think they're just like a sneaky solid team.
Yeah, they're just a rock solid team. Like I said, they are very reminiscent of like the best Paul Rhodes teams where they're just solid. They do a few different things pretty well.
And there's nothing we're gonna do defensively that they're not ready for. Like same situation.
On the flip side of that is that they're running the defense that we practice against every day.
Cincinnati could be 5-1 in the Big 12 when they come to Ames. If they beat Colorado and West Virginia. They have West Virginia at home.
They have to go to Colorado. I think that'd be tough to get to there.
Yeah, and I at this point I'd probably pick Colorado to win that, but it's like they could be.
They could. They absolutely could. I would like them to do that because I would take Colorado.
And they got. The defensive line is still pretty solid. I mean, they got Corleone back. And he's an NFL defensive tackle. I mean,
we just got these 4 games, man. Like we got to go one game at a time. Take care of these 4 games. If we're 11-0 going into Kansas State at home, I don't see a world where we lose that game.
Especially if it has been determined that it's a winning in type of thing.
Yeah.
No chance for losing that.
Because by that point, you'll probably know if we lose this game, we're out.
Right. The math will have been done at that point. Hopefully, maybe Kansas State loses to somebody, along the way, and maybe BYU and Colorado pick up a loss, so that way Iowa State's undefeated and everybody else has a loss or two, and you're locked in. That'd be fantastic. We're still gonna try to beat that ass, but
here's what's really gonna grind my gears is we're 11-0 going into the last home game of the year right after Thanksgiving, and the students don't show up because we had to go home for Thanksgiving break.
I feel like they'd go 11-0.
I hope
so. If we're 11-0, and which at that point we're probably, I don't know, number 5 or number 6 or something like that, and Kansas State is probably pushing top 10 because they're probably like 10-1. At that, and then like it's a winner gets into the Big 12 title game type of thing. I can't imagine going home for Thanksgiving and watching that on TV.
Well, it's that Saturday after Thanksgiving,
so right? You even got an extra day to come back. Like, come on, there's no way you cannot be there.
I would cancel Thanksgiving.
All you do is just drive back to Ames Friday afternoon. Like,
bring in the whole family.
Yeah, bring everybody. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, it's a good time to have a bye week.
But
Texas Tech, I think we match up well with Texas Tech, and it's just right now. It's kind of funny because
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. In theory, we shouldn't have a game where we have to have heart attacks or even think about the possibility of having a heart attack until possibly we have to go to Utah. But like you said, they got to really their 3-game stretch there is really tough, and they could be beat to shit, and the morale could be low for the boys.
Well,
So that might
imagine morale's already pretty low.
yeah, and so like the only reason is because it's at Utah, but like
right.
We shouldn't have any scares until then, and then we probably shouldn't be scared by them either. And like I said, with the momentum in the season's a big deal. You're 11-0 going into the biggest game of the year. Like, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah.
Taj Brooks has been at Texas Tech for like
forever.
Centuries.
Yeah, he's been there forever. But part of it too is I'm thinking like if Utah loses another game or two before we play them, the fans will probably not be particularly enthusiastic about showing up. And having a toned down Rice-Eccles Stadium would be very nice. I don't know. It's so weird being like being able to justifiably talk about Iowa State like, oh, we should beat these guys, we should beat these guys, we should beat these guys, and if we're 11-1, if we're 12-0 type of thing or whatever, like the whole we've never won 10 games thing or whatever like that. So then it is odd though to be able to. I mean,
2020 was a 10-win season, bro.
I know. You could argue it was an 11-win season because we lost out on 2 bye games.
You didn't say that on ESPN.com.
We lost out on 2. Not only did we lose out on 2 bye games, but we had to swap in the 3rd one for fucking Louisiana. Some bullshit. And
there was 2 games that
we would have pissed down in Iowa that year. Iowa was mediocre at best that year.
2 games we didn't. There was 2 weeks of the season where we didn't lose. So I mean, whatever.
Shout out to the wild and wacky news of the day is Oregon State and Washington State will play each other twice next season.
Honestly, I kind of love a home and home in college. I think that's awesome.
Taking the NFL model. The conferences.
I think that's awesome. I personally like if college.
What about
ever
us playing Kansas State 4 times in a row? What about that?
How would you do it 4? I know you can play. We could do 3 times, but I don't know how 4 would happen.
Well, not in a row, but.
Oh, I see.
Because you play them.
Insinuate that we lose.
Because you would play. You could theoretically play them at the end of the season. You play them
3 out of 4 games is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would play them last game,
the first game of next year. Yeah.
Wait, no. You could play them. I saw a graphic where you could play them in the regular season, in the title game, in the first round of the playoffs. And then again, or not in the first round, but in the second round, and then again, first game next season.
Well, if we play them in the second round of the playoffs, we're not playing them again. We're playing a game between the games then.
Right.
We ain't losing the playoffs to Kansas State. Fuck that.
No, but you're playing
Fuck that.
One of the teams it's 4 games out of
I would have to walk into traffic if we lost to Kansas State in the playoff.
I would delete all social media.
That would suck so much. That would be a fucking nightmare on social media.
Yeah, like this is how terrible it is, right? I don't even know if this could even happen mathematically, but if you beat them in the regular season, you beat them in the championship game, and then you lose
in the playoff. That would be so awful.
Like I jumped into a lake and drowned myself.
But I gotta believe if you beat them in the season and you beat them in the championship, they're not in the
playoff. Yeah, they're not in the playoff because they'd have 3 losses at that point.
Yeah, they would have to beat us. We'd have to go undefeated, and they have to beat us in the championship, I think, for that to happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'd commit suicide.
It'd be so fucking bad. Oh my god!
It's not even funny to joke about with the suicide thing, but it might be possible.
But that would that not be kind of hype if we beat them in the regular season, they beat us in the championship, and the series is 1-1, and then the next game is the playoff? Yeah.
That'd be pretty crazy. Because at that point, to beat them in the playoff, because they would be the 4 seed. So then at that point, we would have won a first round game, probably hosting. We would have won a first round game in Ames, and then we go beat Kansas State in the semifinal or in the quarterfinal, and then go get our shit kicked in by go get our fucking shit pushed in by Georgia or something.
I don't know about that.
Worth it.
Dude, the SEC is fraudulent.
I don't disagree with you. I think the team we probably match up worst with when healthy would be Texas, but they might not have a quarterback by then, so who knows?
Like you can look at all the
Arch Manning
games.
might be. Actually, I'm not even saying might be. He is better than you.
He's better. Yeah, he's better than Quinn Ewers. Yeah.
Like if you just look at all the SEC games that have happened this year, like there's no way you can be serious about them, right? Like they've got some good
who do you
football
look
teams,
at in
but,
that
like,
conference and be like, oh, that's the dominant team?
yeah, they don't have one.
No.
But remember when the Big 12 played the round robin and we beat each other up every year? The narrative was, oh, well, you guys don't have any good teams. That's why you guys beat each other up. Well,
Yeah,
take a look at the
9-3.
SEC with not one undefeated team left.
Yep. Not a single undefeated team left. Texas doesn't have a quarterback right at the moment. And Georgia's got a loss and looked pretty vulnerable in that. They looked vulnerable in that Alabama game.
And in Kentucky,
Kentucky,
they
Alabama's
could have
got 2 losses. Like
Georgia to me though
the
seems like a team that I think at the end of the year they're going to be that one team that's like just a brick shit house again. Like
yeah,
like-
they're taking the regular season like the
they're
Niners. They're like, fuck it,
they're
we'll
like
just
fuck
figure it
like
out.
that Kentucky game was
just
like
get to the
full-
playoff and then we'll figure it out from there.
That Kentucky game was full blow on like whatever. Like they didn't give a fuck. Like, oh, we're gonna win this eventually, you know. And then like Bama, I think they just got their shit kicked in right away, and they're like, fuck. And then they started to play, and they finally figured it out. And then Bama apparently went the opposite direction, and
That's what I'm
unfigured
saying.
it out.
If you go the transitive property here, the SEC looks pretty fucking rough. Like Bama losing to Vandy and then trying to lose, probably should have lost to South Carolina, but their quarterback
Put
can't
some respect on that name of the top 25 Vanderbilt Commodores.
Right. We live in a world where there's SEC teams out there that are like, man, I don't really want to play Vandy at the end of the year. Like,
and they're doing it in a half-finished stadium. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Just like, let's play some ball.
Yeah, Vanderbilt doesn't even have a stadium; they have a construction site.
They're playing in a giant hole in the ground, and they're like, fuck it.
Like,
meet us in the hole. We'll play some ball quick.
Georgia tried to fuck around and lose to Mississippi State. Like they kind of tried to.
Meet us in the hole. We're gonna play some ball.
That
Mississippi State got their ass beat by Arizona State.
Yeah.
Georgia tried to lose to Mississippi State. They tried.
Mississippi State real bad.
Yeah,
Real
they're
bad.
terrible. That's what I'm saying, man. I don't think it's Arkansas beats Tennessee and then gets blown the fuck out by LSU. Like, I just don't think it's all it's cracked up to be right now.
Could it I would still put my money on Georgia, but like at the end of the day, like could it be like LSU at the end of this all could be the one standing on top?
Could be. If I had to bet on a national champion right now that wasn't the Cyclones, I would bet on Oregon or Ohio State. I wouldn't take any of the SEC.
Actually, the one team I really don't want any piece of is Ohio State. Probably
not Oregon either, to be honest.
they're pretty good. Yeah.
Like
Probably
I would be safe saying I would rather almost play any SEC team before I'd play either of those teams.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, the thing is like this different. Like Oregon can put up a lot of points, but like their defense is solid. Like in terms of like comparison to other Oregon teams in the past. But the thing that's going to hold them back, I think, is going to be Dylan Gabriel. And he's been playing well this year, but he's still, he's still got that.
He's still Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, he's still Dylan Gabriel.
He's still goofy. Yeah.
I'd take Penn State. I'd take a Penn State draw. I think they're kind of mid.
So analytically, we are basically identical to Penn State.
Yeah.
And honestly, we're darn near the same team as Penn State. And if you're putting up Iowa State against Penn State, mano a mano type of thing, give me Matt Campbell and give me Taylor Mauser and John Haycock over Andy Kotelnicki and whoever the fuck they got coaching defense.
Yeah, if they had a better quarterback, Penn State, I think it'd be a different.
Yeah, they've got that fucking
Drew Aller.
Taysom Hill kid that plays every position.
He's the one who's holding them back from, and I don't know how they just can't get they always get these guys that are just like.
Well, they've had number one quarterbacks before, like
Sean Clifford, right? They get the Clifford kid. It's like that's the same kid they have now, just different last name.
Well, their tight end is fucking sweet though. That dude's sweet.
Christian Hackenberg was a number one quarterback, and
yeah, but they get there and it's just like they play whatever this weird style. Like they've like, oh, I'll hand it to Saquon Barkley or whatever, you know. And
Yeah, they just don't have like the personnel to run what Kotelnicki ran at Kansas.
They also tried to lose the LSU or USC, right? They tried to lose the USC. Went to overtime.
Yeah, and USC is pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's weird, man. College football has been weird this year.
it's fun. There's no dominant team. It's great. There are very few teams in this country right now that I would like. And the crazy part of this too is that we're feeling good. I would say it's undefeated, winning games they really have no business winning, and that's with so many injuries at linebacker. I mean, I'm thinking like when you get towards like pushing for a Big 12 title game or pushing for a playoff or something like that, if you got Will McLaughlin and Caleb Bacon back and suddenly you're full speed.
And there's no tape on them.
There's no tape. Your offensive line is much better than it was at the beginning of the season. Iowa State, and that's the thing too, is that like Iowa State has not either offensively or defensively. Defensively they've had some really good games, but especially offensively, this offense has not played its best game yet.
No, I don't think so.
Like they've gotten
not from start to finish. At least,
yeah. They have not played a complete game yet. So there is definitely another gear or two for this offense. You know, even in games where they put up some points, maybe Ben Bramer has like one catch or something like that. Or there's other games where Rocco gets a slow start and they score 28 instead of 40 or something like that. You know, there's been a number of different things in every game that just for whatever reason didn't quite work out. But whenever they put a full game together where start to finish, they're doing what they should be doing the whole game, they're going to score 60. Like, you know, and they're going to score 60 and they're only going to give up 14. You know, it's going to be a blowout, and they could do it to anybody. And
with John Haycock, if I feel like the number's 35, if you play zero mistake football on offense and you score 35 points, you're going to win every single time.
Every single game. Yeah, you're going to win every single game.
If John Haycock is your defensive coordinator and you don't turn the ball over and you score 35 points, you're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you got to remember that we gave them 14 points and then we're one missed tackle away from another one.
Yeah.
You know, UCF got spotted 21 or 28 points, however you want to look at it. That game probably had no business being as close as it was. So, you know, I don't
know. We were talking about the like the other teams and the other conferences and stuff like that. Shout out to our homies at the Naval Academy and the Army.
Yeah.
Ranked in the top 25. Big game this weekend, Navy and Notre Dame.
I wouldn't mind Navy.
I'll take Navy.
Notre Dame.
I'll take Navy.
Notre Dame has made a habit of just shit pounding, blowing Navy out of the water.
Kind of games.
Yeah, not NIU though.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen.
But I'd be okay with Navy knocking Notre Dame.
Honestly, I mean, I think I'd be okay with it, whatever. I mean, I like Notre Dame and all that stuff, but like, do I really care at the end of the day? Not that much. But I think Army is better than Navy by far, and Army's actually kind of sneaky because it's not like they run the option still, but they can throw it. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. I would not want to play Army. Fuck that.
No, I'd be okay. Like Notre Dame probably is going to beat Navy, but the Army game, they play Army in a couple weeks. Watch out.
Yeah. All righty. We got anything else we want to get off our chest?
That's the last game of the year.
Yeah, and then Army Navy is after the conference title games.
Yeah, December 14th.
Yep.
Do one of those teams get in?
They can.
Undefeated?
If they go undefeated, yeah. And if Boise State loses.
That'd be sweet as hell to see Army in the playoff.
Because that'd be, you know, what's the
as long as we don't play them.
The worst part of that's going to be.
Yeah, I don't want to fucking play Army. Fuck that, dude.
It should be miserable to watch, man. Especially the way our defense is structured. It'd just be like, it'd just be like 4.5 yards of play until the game's over.
Let's just say theoretically, Army and Navy are undefeated to go play in Philadelphia this year. They are going to go piss pound the fuck out of each other because that's the game that they're all ready for every year. Winner goes to the playoff and is banged up like no other and has to play like Ohio State or some shit. That would blow ass. I just played football for my country a week ago. Here I am,
like
blowing
they'd
up
only
like
have like
children.
they'd only have like a week or two to prepare for Ohio State or something like
It'd be
that.
a week.
Yeah, because
One
that game
week.
is so late. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the week in between. Yeah.
Oh, that's disgusting. Go 1 week Army Navy game straight to play in Ohio State or something.
And that's not like, it's not like, oh yeah, we get some rest. It's like everybody's running the option, getting your knees blown out every play on the offensive defensive line, like just brutal.
Well, and the funny thing is whoever like if both of them are undefeated going into that game, then like whoever like in Boise State loses, so they know that whoever wins that game's getting into the playoff. The other team that they're playing,
academies
it's not like
are the only schools that do not have NIL.
Yeah, the academies don't have NIL. So then like, let's say they're playing Ohio State or something like that in the first round of the playoffs or something like that. They got to go to Columbus, and Ohio State's been preparing for the triple option for 2 weeks, regardless of who wins. You know, so they're like, yeah, I'm sure there are variations on it a little different.
Yeah.
But
the army one is so different than what has been ran in the past because they are actually like they back out of like their options and go into like, you know how we lined up in the T-bone at Iowa and then backed out into the shotgun. So like they are backing out of this and like going into pass mode and like doing it at will against these teams. So it's a totally different Army team. That's why I'm like, if they both go undefeated, like that's gonna be the most watched Army Navy game ever, and it is a very heavily watched game anyways. But you add 2 undefeated teams. Oh fuck!
hell yeah,
That'd be
college
sick.
football right there. That's college football. So, we got anything else we want to discuss before we wrap her up?
No, we're good. Bye week. Fucking do our thing for 4 weeks, and then 11-0 beat shit out of Kansas State.
It's gonna be great.
Shout out bye week. I don't have to write articles or anything this week. Go team.
Yeah, shout out bye week. It's a bye week for us here at Wide Red Light too. Yeah.
Well, see you later, guys. Peace.
You're supposed to